welcome to Men's Health Dialogue once again. My name is Ivan Sopon. I'm the host, and today we have another interview for you. Today we are on the topic of men in nursing, and we are going to interview one gentleman here who is also a nurse, maybe a nurse student. He's almost there to be a nurse and to be practicing. So I will introduce my guest, who is called Bright, and the name Bright, he himself will explain before we start the interview. So thank you very much, Bright, for coming. And then because of COVID, I think we'll punch for now.
I think actually we have to go that way.
Yeah, well, you being a nurse, you teach us more. So can you introduce yourself once again for me?
Okay, yeah, my name is Bright. I'm a third year Bachelor of Nursing student at U of L.
Okay. So you're a third year student. So today, as I said earlier on, our topic is men in nursing. We want to know the issues men face in nursing, being a nurse, student, or practicing. So I will begin my interview with the question, and my question is, how is your experience like once you migrated to Canada?
Okay, Canada has actually, I've experienced, I have two things that Canada has exposed me to. I had back home experience, and I have Canadian experience, and now I have two things to compare to. Overall, Canada has been good in many ways in terms of status. I mean, should I say that, some of the benefits that Canada will give in terms of quality of health, some of the things that they focus on. So in general, there are the pros and cons. There are the good side and the bad side. I've had the opportunity to have, I'm paying for my own education. I've held, working on my second degree independently, without depending on anybody. I don't think I could have actually gone 4 days by myself if I was back home. And at least I also work. When I started working when I was still young, when I came to Canada, where if I was back home, I don't think I would have had that opportunity. So that has been the good side. And the bad side is just the general thing that we always talk about, a little bit of that racial thing going on. Yeah, that is one thing that I always talk about. If there is anything that I still struggle with Canadians is they smile more. And yes, still you realize that we all know energies, right?
Yeah.
Positive energy and negative energy. When somebody is being real to you, you can tell. Right? And when somebody's faking up, you can tell. And if you ask me personally, I'll be honest with myself. I'm not saying all Canadians or say white Canadians. Let me clarify. We have white Canadians and but for the white Canadians, I'm not saying all of them are like that, but majority of what I have experienced, I sense that negative energy, like that fakeness, and that is what I've had a little bit issue with.
So fakeness in terms of,
like. You can say that there are certain things that you equally you believe you equally have the expertise that you should be given the opportunity to express yourself, but you realize that for your own reasons, sometimes you realize that goes to the other person. Sometimes you realize that you have even more experience. And in terms of many places, I see that now that equal opportunities for everybody. They talk of equal opportunities, but I still question it. That is some of the few things.
Even you being a Canadian?
Me being this long Canadian, I've experienced it when I was in Toronto, thinking I came to Alberta or something different. I still sense it, but I guess it's just how human nature is. I don't just want to make it a Canadian thing. I want to make it a human nature thing. I'm a Ghanaian, and I know I've been among Ghanaians ourselves and the foreigner, like let's say Nigeria, who are even closest to us. Look at how Ghanaians sometimes we take them. So as much as I see it wrong, I guess it's a human nature. I'll put it more of a human nature because my own people do it among ourselves. When Ashanti, you know what I'm talking about, the Ghanaian end. Let's say that when somebody from another tribe comes among us, sometimes we have our own sort of,
So did you think that when you were coming to Canada, you were coming to the land of milk and honey?
Everybody had that thought. I did. Canada was going to be It's not that bad though. Let me clarify.
Yeah.
It's not. But the way I perceive Canada is not how. I mean, the overall. I mean, there is an opportunity. I have a chance to. The sky is my limit.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something that I learned when I was in Ontario when I came to Canada fresh.
Okay.
I was told one of my father's friends said something that went deep. He's like, if you look at Ontario, they never played. They have something. The working there is yours to discover.
Mm-hmm.
And what yours to discover is that Canada is big. A lot of things. It is up to you to choose whatever you want to. Nobody can choose what. And I think in most areas in Canada, that is what I see. It's like there is not that limitation.
So you basically talk about the good side, the opportunities that Canada will offer you when you're here, and then you talk about, in general, in a nutshell, you talk about
racism exists in Canada.
Racial discrimination.
Yeah, racial discrimination exists.
Even especially systemic racism.
Systemic racism,
Okay.
definitely in Canada. It is. And that is what I'm saying, that Canadians, I don't mind if they say that, this happens here. But Canadians will deny it. You ask 10 Canadians, they will deny it. And that's the problem. The problem is that Canadians, even if you do a general survey, majority of Canadians will deny it.
So why do you think they deny?
And that is where I say that the fakeness comes in. Because accepting truth can be very tough.
Mm-hmm.
Because you are thinking about how the next person will view you. But I think honesty is the best thing to do.
So truth is bitter.
Mm-hmm. So many of them will act like, they don't want you to think, oh, once they tell you that, oh, he's racist or she's racist, and so they will act like, oh.
But what I think I had your experience when I was doing my interview for my thesis, where someone will meet you and the person will give you that fake smile. But I call it a killer smile because you don't know what is running through the head. But this brings me back to my next question. Why did you choose nursing?
This is a very good question. I'll be honest with myself. The first thing is stability in terms of employment. That is the first thing.
So the concept of getting job.
A good job, yeah. A stable job. Because I have, like I told you, I have a first degree in a combined degree in neuroscience and biochemistry. And I realized that it was a waste of money and a degree.
Why?
I look at it, how much crumbs and what we had to go through to achieve that, to get that degree, and you realize looking for a job is like it's not easy. You go in and look for jobs, it's very difficult to get a job with that.
So the program you choose matters most to you.
Yes, but with the nursing there is that you find something to do.
So that's your first point.
Yes, my first, and that is the first reason.
Job.
And the second thing is I actually realized by myself as I stand here, the job that I use temporarily to care for myself is disability support worker. Disability support worker revealed some parts of me that I didn't know, and that is the service, some qualities of empathy and care. Okay. The extent of care. Disability jobs or community support work job also made me see this side of me, and so I asked myself, there's most of, as much as we work with individuals who have disability, there are certain things that we are limited in terms of our scope of practice.
Yeah.
And so I felt the need to further my education in nursing so that I can go further in that area. So the service for humankind are also something that drove me or attracted me to nursing.
Most people go into nursing because of money.
That's why I accepted it.
Because they think there's a lot of money in nursing. Not necessarily the passion for the job.
And that is the problem.
What is your experience in terms of this?
If you go in, we have something called, I think they call it employment fatigue, or job fatigue. If you go into a job with no passion for it, eventually, even during your practice, a good patient can distinguish between someone who is there and genuinely care and somebody who is just doing it to pass hours and get paid.
How?
Somebody who cares, who has a passion, like to normally in every area of profession, normally goes to the extent of doing more than they expected.
Okay.
Ask themselves questions, more and more questions, digging into more stuff. But with somebody who is in for just a paycheck, you realize that they're just looking at the hours they're making and how much their hours can turn into good money for them. And you can tell that if you don't have a passion for something, eventually you get it burnt out.
Yeah.
Because it's not something that you love to do. So the passion does play a role.
Then that brings me back to my next question. Being a man, a male in nursing programming that is dominated by females, what are some of the issues that men, but in this context, minorities or black men faced in the nursing program?
Can you clarify to me? Do you want to get it in terms of men in general or minority in general?
Nursing is mostly a female-dominated kind of program.
Mm-hmm.
So you being a man, a male in nursing, what are some of the difficulties you face as a male nurse?
Okay. The first thing that I was even talking to one of the professors in the nursing program who is a male. So he oriented me properly into what we are facing, and he was very right. Just when he pointed it out, I was like, I was looking for the right word, and he helped me out. And that is, let's put it all together between men and women. Our approach to things are different. How we go about managing our task, our responsibility. One thing they've realized is that, because the profession is dominated by females, they do things a certain way, and that is how they think the thing should be done.
Okay.
And so when a man comes with a different approach, sometimes some find it as something wrong, not doing it right. So it becomes a challenge. So it's like the fact that you are approaching the same task by using a different doing what you're expected to do by using a different approach. Some people are used to a certain way of approach. Yeah. And so when you approach it in a different way, which I said is a female dominant profession, with a man coming a different way of doing things, it becomes challenging. So men sometimes, especially in the practice, men have to work more to pass in terms of the clinical aspect of things. Because if your instructor is used to the female ways of doing things and you are approaching it with a male way of doing things, sometimes they see it as a faulty. They think you're not doing right. They think your approach is wrong.
So what are the male ways?
Okay, I would say that even you are a man like me, so I don't know how to. Sometimes, men we don't like to go circles. Sometimes we just like, I'm giving that. Okay, don't get me wrong. It's just this is my view of men.
Yeah.
Men, as far as a man, it's like going to a shop. Before I get to the shop, I know what I want to buy. If I'm looking for a black pants, I already know what I'm going to, and I will just go to the store and I'll just grab it and I'll leave. I will not waste my time and doing all the window shopping. But a woman will take her time. A woman can spend an hour in the shop or in the store. Yeah. That's one of the examples. So in the nursing, men, the way we go about it is like, okay, this is what I have to do. Let me, but the way the women goes about, like using that shopping example, sometimes they sometimes question your empathy. I'll say somehow. Or because of how we perceive and how we think something should be done, sometimes it becomes difficult. I don't know if you're understanding
I understand what you're saying.
So it's just our approach. Our approach tends to be different from
So to me, men do have different approach.
Yes.
And then women have.
So I would say that, let's give myself an example. I wish I would have a male instructor.
Why?
Because I believe that a male instructor, giving an example of it in my nursing courses where I had the experience with men, I'll be honest with myself, I enjoy it with men who are teaching the courses more because I can easily relate. I'll say I may be biased in this sense here. That is what I'm saying it. But because the person is a man, I believe they understand me better and they know why I'm doing certain things in a certain way. And even when I explain myself, they understand it better. But again, this is a female dominant. Let's say a woman coming into a profession like construction as a female. When she comes with a feminist, the little bit, sorry for my language again, but
that's
the soft side of women into areas like construction or military. You see what we even hear, how women are treated. They are bullied. Everything that the men are doing, they find it as bully. But to men, it's normal. it's a tough environment, and we are coached, we are conditioned to do certain things. And so when a woman gets to those kind of male predominant professions too, they also go through a lot. So that is a challenge. It's just that nursing happen to be a female dominant profession, and they look at how things should be carried out differently.
So does that really discourage you, or does that sometimes?
It's I've been challenged, and I'll be honest with myself. Sometimes I feel like giving up, but sometimes I'm like, you know what? I have something new to teach that they also can learn. That because the more men are coming into the field, the more the females who are in the field are realizing, oh, okay, they are not wrong, you know. Maybe so it's like we are bringing something new. We are kind of blending it.
Yeah.
We are kind of, you know.
So you see yourself like bringing something new into the program or into the field. So irrespective of whatever hardship or the challenges you face,
I take it upon myself.
You endure it.
I enjoy.
Although sometimes you feel like
sometimes.
Okay. So coming back to black males, like what challenge does it pose to black nurses?
This answer I can give it to you in general in my studies in Canada here as a man, or say not even as a man, as a minority, visible minority. I've realized, and I've read it in one of my papers too, where I'm happy that some people could acknowledge it, because something presumptions. And I realized that sometimes some of the Caucasians or the Western people have a perception of the visible minority, thinking that maybe you don't have the skill, or maybe you are not competent enough to do something. And so, because somebody has already had that perception of you, it becomes very difficult on you, because like whatever, let's say they're going to do something, and already the one who you are going to work with already think Evans is up to nothing.
Looking down to you.
It makes the job very difficult on you, in the sense that it's whatever you do, the person may not find anything good in it. All they see is that you are bad. You don't have the skill, you don't have the competency. And that is a challenge. I quite remember during my first degree, there are group discussions that sometimes you raise your hands and it's like you're not even part of the group. This can be very challenging. I've realized that there are so many people who were very brilliant, but because of the feel of that kind of condescending, and let's be factual, part of being intelligent or excelling is confidence.
Yeah.
And your ego.
Yeah.
If that ego is broken, sometimes you lose trust even in yourself.
Yeah.
You see yourself less able. It takes a tough-minded person to endure.
So if you are going through all these things as a black nurse, and
I just to add it, even some of my clinicals, I realize that sometimes because you are, again, based on my visibility as a minority person, you realize that when you're going to do something, your instructors, the way they look at you, the way they want to come closer, it's like they think that you cannot do the thing, and they have to watch you because you may, like, feel like there's that extra eye on you.
Let's keep an eye on this guy.
Because, like they have that kind of perception that you can do it. You make mistakes. And so they have to have that extra, and it makes it kind of challenging on you.
How does it affect your...
It affects you because... it can be very draining. I've made a mistake in clinic, and I admit it. And it was because of how my instructor was just there. The mistake that I made is a mistake that I shouldn't have made, because I work right now as a community support worker. I give medications all the time. But I made a med error. And that med error, I'll admit it, that I made it because of how I was being watched. It became very uncomfortable. I don't know how to describe it, but when your competency is being questioned, sometimes that affects you. It affects you. And that is one thing I've realized. The program has been very challenging to me. It has been very draining.
Do you sometimes think about something different?
Like,
does it, like when you begin to go through all these things, and then challenges that you mentally, how you raising them?
And that is why I said I made a mistake. I make mistakes because sometimes, instead of focusing on the task ahead, you are thinking about how you are perceived. Oh, and let me put one thing. Sometimes it may not even come from the instructor, but the patient that you're going to take care of. It's an interesting area because, you're a visible minority. you're going to take care of a majority, somebody who sees himself. So sometimes a black person is going to take care of a white Caucasian who sees you, and sometimes they're questioning, they're looking at you with like questioning you already. Can this guy do the thing? They'll be asking you questions that they shouldn't ask you because they think you don't know what you're doing. So they feel like they need to ask you and make sure they can do it. So they are already the patient themselves question you.
Even when you are giving your best.
Even when you are going to take care of that patient, the patient who needs you,
so
who doesn't know you.
It's a very challenging area for black.
Oh, it is very, very challenging. Your co-workers are challenging you, your superiors are challenging you, and the patients are challenging you. And so if you don't have that mental toughness and you don't have the zeal and the passion that, you know what, I know why I'm here and I'm not going to let anybody discourage me.
Does it make you strong, or it's sometimes it gets you to reason in a different way, like you become soft, like you become like, okay, everything goes.
That's what I'm saying. How does it? Personally, there are days, it's like a roller coaster. There are days that I felt weak. There are days that I felt like, you know what, this is a challenge and I need to take it. What never kills me makes me stronger. It's going to refine me. And so I've had both experiences on clinical area. Because you go there and you're taking care of, you can see that the patient that you're going to take care of, the way the patient is looking at you. And sometimes you're talking and you're like, I don't know if I've been in Canada for many years. I don't know. Do I have a problem with speaking English?
How?
The funny thing is, sometimes you are speaking English and the patient, it can be very uncomfortable. It's like, what are you saying? I can hear you properly. Your English, your accent. So basically, the moment the person does that, it makes you feel like, oh. So then you are scared. You're like, it affects your rapport. It affects your communication. Because now you think that whatever you're saying, the patient is not going to understand you. So how are you going to provide a service to patient who is questioning? Instead of paying attention to the care that you are going to give, they are questioning if you know what you're doing. And when you're explaining yourself, they are questioning your accent. Does my accent has anything to do with my competency? Let me tell you one thing that I've also experienced as a male in nursing. You know, in nursing, we do personal stuff.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's another challenge that we face, in the sense that I realize most of the female patients feel uncomfortable with a man doing certain things for them because we're a man. You understand what I'm saying? Because he's a man and she's like, you know.
Certain things like
and
that.
Sometimes it's like, I don't blame them. It can be their culture. But sometimes, based on how somebody was brought up, I mean, exposing myself or allowing a guy to touch certain things, sometimes they perceive maybe you are having some enjoyment, you know, forgetting that being there, you are being professional. But in your professionalism, it makes it sort of, that's another thing.
But is there any enjoyment?
But I realize that the male patients don't really see anything wrong with it when a female nurse is, you know, trying to do her job in line of work. But as a man, if you are trying to do certain things with a female, she feel like, you know, she be the one. Even when you're taking care of her clothes, and you know, she's sort of, you can see that she's uncomfortable. Some of them will tell you straight up, I prefer that a female takes care of me. The funny thing is, they're okay with the male doctors. But when a male nurse is taking care of them, it kind of, you know.
Is there any perception?
Well, you're a man and you're going to touch her, you know.
But the doctor is also a man.
Surprisingly, they forget that we are here professionally. And it's part of our standard of practice to conduct ourselves professionally. And so when you're doing your work in line of duty, we try to be as professional as possible.
Because a female nurse also touches me when I'm sick.
By the way, when you're a male nurse and you're trying to do the
why
same
do
thing,
we have that issue with the male nurses?
And that is the challenge that, if you ask him, he just brought to me, that's one of the
challenges. Is there any pro and cons with relating to your female nurses? Is there something?
Oh, that one too can be. I mean, being a nurse, a male and a nurse, it has again, predominantly female environment.
Yeah.
There are those who would think you are trying to flirt with them. And when you're too straight to, there are those who are thinking you're trying to pose your ego, thinking that you're a male. And so it's kind of difficult as to how to, express yourself. Because some could see it as a threat and some could see it as a flirt. And so as a male, it's challenging. You know how the society views men.
So is that, do you have something that you don't have to say to female nurses?
Your language. I mean, I would say that being a man in that place, you risk getting yourself into all these things out there that he there's no consent. He's looking at me this way. He's trying to abuse. You are risking all that. It's easy, but I'm happy that it seems these topics have been raised and they are aware of it. But it has happened. You don't know how to express yourself. And some of these females also come there. Some of them in their backgrounds have had bad experience with men. Some too have. So, like, imagine a female who has a bad experience with men or has some negative experiences. The moment she's in a place with a man, there is always that thing like either she wants to prove herself or she thinks you're up to something. And so it's like you have to close your eyes. It's challenging.
There are so many things that...
It's a predominantly female environment. It's the same way, like I said, a female going to a predominantly male, like construction. Sometimes they feel like the men could also take advantage of them and also sort of, attach them wrongly or maybe try to... So it's also kind of challenging for them. They have to also pose a way to keep up with the males. So the same.
So what are some of the suggestions you have for men and men in nursing, black men in nursing, minorities in nursing? What are some of the suggestions you have for them in terms of the mental health?
In the first place, stick to your standards of practice. We have a standard of practice. Try to stick to it. You know your scope of practice. Try to stick to it and focus. Know why you are there, what you're going to do. It's not easy to just think about what you're going to do, especially when it's in a very negative environment. But if you can tune your mind, and one thing I can also say here that I've benefited from the nursing program is reflections and journals. It is a way of kind of, taking care of your mental psyche, because that is one way that helps us. If you can go home and then reflect on your
So you are saying that reflections help your mental
it helps. I would say that be reflecting on things, because you are going back and seeing the things that you did and what you can do best.
Oh, so what you did wrong and what you did right and what you think you can
do better. And I realized that the reflections are actually very helpful.
And my last question before we can close: what do you wish you would have known earlier before you went into nursing?
I mean, I'll tell you, it's like a fish being drawn out of water. Is how it's been. The clinicals are, had I known how the clinicals are, that would have been very helpful, because sometimes the way I'm a fresh student who has no idea, nothing about nursing, and they just take me to clinicals and they're expecting me to be as competent as possible right away. I mean, it's very challenging. And then sometimes you have questions that you want to ask and you can't ask, because if you go and ask your clinical instructor, he or she is thinking that you're not competent. You should know. And so it's like we are left to learn everything by ourselves. It's like everything. Sometimes I would say that many people make mistakes. That is one thing. They are trying to help us change that mentality, but it's very difficult for people in the sense that even when you make mistakes, sometimes you feel like it was good or it's good that you tell that I didn't do this right, and then they will teach you. But the same thing, you are scared that when you go and tell that I made this mistake, you can lose your job. You may be perceived as being not competent.
So
and so it makes it scary for us.
If it is scary, then how will you give your best?
How
will you give your best then?
And that is a very challenging. So, like myself, what is helping me right now is I have people that I look up to, mentors. I realize that mentors are very, 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 very helpful in the program. Like a mentor, somebody who has gone through the journey. Like recently, I'm taking community health nursing. I'm
Mhm.
taking leadership in nursing. Before the semester began, I spoke to some people who have taken the course. I asked them what to expect, and so they gave me the view, what to expect and how to prepare. And so I realized, and even when you have a mentor too, what a mentor does is, if you don't know something, you feel comfortable, somebody who can relate to you, and then kind of give you the best advice. I realized that mentors, even in those times where you are challenged mentally and having all these mental fatigue, having a mentor helps a lot.
Oh,
Somebody who can empathize with you, somebody who has walked through the journey and successfully went through it, can relate to you, can share the experiences, and they can tell you how they dealt with the challenges.
so if someone is watching us today, and then the person wants to go into nursing program, and the person comes to you, or the person approaches
I'm
you,
more
and the
than
person
happy.
asks you a question that I want to go into nursing, I'm a man. What would be your best advice for such a person?
Be ready for the challenge. Yeah, but you can do it. Yeah, be ready for the challenges.
and then for men who are already in the program,
But get a mentor. I'll always
That's your
recommend a
point.
mentor. So a male should try to find a male buddy. Like I'll tell you again that I met with one of my professors who, again, because he's a male and he's a doctor in nursing, who has gone through all this. It was very helpful because I found a man who I could relate, who I could tell my problem and could understand right away and help me out. So if you're a male, try to get yourself a male mentor who can guide you through when you're going through those challenges. Because those things are there, they're not going to stop. Maybe in the near future things may change. But right now, it is there.
but you don't suggest female mentor.
Unless you can maybe. But the reason why I'm not suggesting female mentor is empathy. The empathetic area, you need somebody who can step into your shoes, fit in to understand. I'll give an example as visible minority what we go through. Why sometimes Canadians or Caucasians think that we like to complain. We are just we just want attention is they are not us. And so sometimes they don't know what we go through every day to survive.
Yeah.
But because you are a visible minority as myself, when I talk to you about an issue, you can relate because you have one that experience it. And so finding the person who fits well is very helpful. A female, maybe she'll not experience it because she's a female. She's doing all. But getting a male, one, you feel like, oh, there's a male achiever. This is one of the things that it does to you. It strengthens you. It impacts you in the sense that, oh, if my fellow man has made it, that means I can do it. That's one of the things. You need that. And secondly, when you are going through the challenge, you can go and share those, and that person can tell you one or two things on how to deal with it.
Which is possible because for us, for men, I think we are more confident with our male counterpart because we feel like we are men, boys, guys. So you have that confidence to approach, even with issues that are for men. But I think maybe the reason that I'll be in your shoe with that is when it's a female, certain issues that are very confidential, you feel not safe to discuss it with a person. So maybe you might want to reserve all those things to get a male to go to. So my last one is for you is your fellow guys who are practicing the nursing, who are students and going through the same situations, and even in the midst of COVID, depressed. What is your advice for them in this era?
Talk to somebody. I've realized what I know right now. If I'd known, I would say it again. That mentorship helps a lot. Finding somebody who has gone through the journey, who had some experiences and managed to succeed, you need that person. Because that person becomes a buddy, somebody who you can share, you can express yourself better with. Talking about depressions and all those. Depressions are heavy on you when you don't find the right person who can relate and understand. When you have an issue, when you have somebody who understands what you're going through, they know how to talk to you to help you deal with it. And so, to me, mentorship since I realized who a mentor is, I realized how important it is.
Okay.
But finding that right person is the challenge. But once you find the right person,
But to me, I believe that it can be someone who has already completed the course, and you know the person is good. You can, before you start the program, if you have someone in mind, such as
I'm ready to mentor. So like I said, when I'm done with this program, I've said, you know what? If I know any guy who knows me or will try to track me down and come to me, I'll passionately help that person out in any way I can, because I know how it feels like.
That is a good.
That is my passion.
I think that is a good thing that you just expressed. And so, do you think the government should? What do you wish the government to do for the minorities in nursing, men?
It's very difficult. It's the environment that I can say that, the reason it's very difficult for the government to do much in here for us is it's not only your colleagues who you experience this from, but the patients who you are taking care of as well. It's like you're doing customer service job at everywhere. We will be happy if we can have that kind of supportive environment.
Would you like in terms of programs? What do you wish like you have?
Programs like education. I believe in enlightenment. If there is constant education among nurses in understanding certain things, maybe it can minimize some of these inferior or condescending, because if patients have good education, read about how, instead of focusing on the color of your skin or your race or you study this, you look at the competence of the person, knowing that that person has everything and is qualified enough, that would be very helpful. And so education is what I can say. Educating patients in our communities, educating our colleagues, so that they will see you as a peer. The females will see you as somebody who respects yourself and professional enough to do your job. That's very helpful. And we need men in nursing to neutralize all these.
Yeah, we need.
And so then, if there is anything the government should do, the government should make it more easier for more men to get into the program, because then it will neutralize this. Because I wanted to point this out. Even when talking about empathy, if your manager, even your superior in the program, at your workplace, is a female, sometimes even very difficult for the male who is experiencing certain things to express so much. And so having some males, a lot of males, I'll say having a lot of males in that area, holding some of these positions, so that two different people can, when there is an issue, there are two people listening from different angles, making decisions. At least the male will perceive, the female will perceive, and then they can come together and make decisions. That way will help better. Otherwise,
that is very good, and I really thank you very much for your opinion in terms of this issue and your suggestions as well. And I also believe that we should also try to, that's my personal suggestion, maybe if we can get counselors, psychologists for these people, especially minorities, who will definitely be looking down to themselves if they go through some of these challenges. I personally know one of these counselors or psychologists in Calgary, a woman who is exceptionally good, because how she will advise you, she's a minority. So how she will advise you, she's advising you from her own experience.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I was talking about empathy. That's why finding the right person in the right place, it does help a lot.
Yeah, she will not permit me to mention her name, so I'll keep
because
that.
Maybe a Caucasian will probably not understand where you're coming from. They will do their very best, but it's still kind of difficult for them to relate. That relation.
Yeah,
empathy.
I understand.
We talk of empathy, but empathy is very difficult.
We will find a topic for empathy. And so thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And I believe that we will come back again to you. You've given us a very good insight about men in nursing. We thought it was simple, but we've seen
very
how far it will go.
Very
thank you once again. Whilst we are ending the whole interview, I will also ask our viewers to subscribe to our page and on YouTube, Men's Health Dialogue. And so we need your comments, your questions, All these are welcome, and we can address them as time goes on. These are very tough questions, but we also need your input. So we will end this interview today, and thank you very much for watching.